So I've always been fascinated by the idea of chasing greatness. And I'm currently reading a book called Mastery. And I love the idea in this book of taking on an apprenticeship. And in taking on an apprenticeship, the idea is that you're going to learn. You're going to accept the fact that you're not an expert and there's somebody that knows more than you do. And you open yourself up to learning all the tricks of the trade. And you open yourself up to failing and saying, okay, I know I'm going to fail, but I'm going into this with the idea that I want to learn as much as I possibly can because I'm not a master at my craft just yet. And so I love that idea. You know, we used to always say in football, stay coachable at all times. And, it's easy when you go into something and you're brand new to go, okay, I don't know anything. I'm a piece of clay. I want to learn. It's another thing when you've been going through it for a while and to stay coachable, right? To stay in a position where you're always looking to learn. And that to me is what greatness is all about. It's never feeling like, okay, you've got there, but it's feeling like, okay, I might be doing some things well, but I can always get better. And who is out there? Where can I go? Where can I turn to be able to improve my craft or chase after greatness? And one of my favorite experiences in this regard happened when I was with the New York Giants. And Tom Coughlin had come in. It was his first year with the Giants, the year that I was there. And as everybody knows, I would end up getting benched by Tom Coughlin after 9 games that season. And there was a lot of consternation with Tom Coughlin in the locker room, a lot of the rules that he had. There was even speculation that he might get fired after just 1 year as the coach there because, there was just a lot of friction, between the coaches or Coach Coughlin and the locker room. But ultimately, obviously, he got through that first year and they would go on to win a couple Super Bowls along the way and all of those things. But I go back to that first year because, we started strong, and then we kind of fell off throughout the course of the season. As I said, I got benched by Coach Coughlin. And at the end of the year, and I had a good relationship with Coach Coughlin. Even though he benched me, I had great respect for Coach Coughlin. At the end of the year, I was kind of going in to say my goodbyes. Everybody knew that I wasn't going to, stay there with the New York Giants. And Coach Coughlin, looked at me and he said, hey, Kurt, would you do me a favor? Will you go home for 2 or 3 weeks, pull out a pad of paper and a pen, and write down everything you didn't like about what we did this year? And I was kind of taken back by that. I was like, well, Coach, I mean, you do know that there were some issues that a bunch of guys had. I had even voiced some of my opinions throughout the season. And then obviously you're talking to a guy that you benched in the middle of the year. So a disgruntled employee, so to speak. But he asked if I would do it. And I said, Coach, if you really want me to, I will do it. And so I went back, took a couple weeks, had a big notebook full of notes. And I went back and we sat down and we had a meeting. And the meeting was probably a 3-hour meeting. And there were times that it got tense because none of us like to hear that we're not doing something very well, and especially when we're convicted in something and we believe in something, and we hate when someone tells us we're not doing something well. But that's kind of the idea of what I'm sharing here, is that to me, greatness never allows those things that we don't like, that don't feel good, to get in the way of progress. And so, there were times that there was a lot of tension in the room as we were going back and forth. And I had to keep reminding him, Coach, you asked me to come in and do this. But it really was a great conversation. And so I left all my notes with Coach Coughlin, didn't know where it was going to go, but just appreciated the fact that he was willing to ask me. And, and it appeared in the situation that he was willing to be coachable, to say, hey, I've had success in this league. I've done some really good things, but I'm not there yet. I'm not perfect. I haven't reached that greatness status yet. So I'm always looking for ways to improve and looking for those that can help me to improve. So I left the notes with him and didn't really know where it was going to go. Obviously, over the course of time, the Giants would have a great deal of success They would go on to win 2 Super Bowls, as I had mentioned. And then I would hear from some of my teammates that were there the year that I was there, how Coach Coughlin had changed some things and had adjusted and adapted and evolved in his approach over time. I remember Michael Strahan after the first year saying, man, I wanted to play for anybody else but Coach Coughlin. And then by the time his career was over and he was deciding to retire, he was like, now I'm at the point where I don't want to play for anybody else but Coach Coughlin. And I think that speaks to who the man of Tom Coughlin is and his ability to always stay coachable and adaptable to his circumstances. So I say all that, I know that there was changes made along the way. And I would go see Coach Coughlin because I covered the league for the NFL Network. I would go see Coach Coughlin in 2011, 2012 when they were in the Super Bowl in Indianapolis. And I went and saw him, and it was a makeshift office that they had taken over a hotel in downtown Indy. And I went to see him to congratulate him on all his success and everything that he had done. And so we had a great conversation, and about halfway through our conversation, in this makeshift desk that they had brought from New York to that hotel in Indy, he reached down into the bottom drawer of that desk, and he pulled out those sheets of paper that I had written all my notes on some 7 years before that. And he just said, Kurt, I just want you to know that just about every 2 weeks, I go back, I open my drawer, I pull out your notes, and I go through all the different things we talked about in that meeting. Always trying to check myself. Where am I? And some things he said, hey, I'm really convicted in, and I've never made an adjustment there. But there's been so many other things that I've really questioned why I was doing it a certain way. And is there a better way to do it? And challenged what I was thinking. And a big part of where they were as the New York Giants at that point in time and where he felt he was as a coach was his ability to be able to adapt and make some of those changes. And so it was a powerful moment for me to see a coach that had had a great deal of success humble himself to say, hey, Kurt, write these notes for me. And then humble himself even further after hearing all the things that I didn't like about the way they were doing things, to humble himself even further and go, okay, I hear you. I understand that. I'm going to make some changes so that I can be a better coach, so I can connect with my players better, so I can get the best out of them, and so I can find my way to winning some championships and be considered one of the greatest coaches the game has ever seen. And so that's just kind of my little story that I wanted to share today, because I'm always thinking about this idea of chasing greatness. No matter what I'm doing, no matter what phase of life, how do I become great at what I'm doing? And I always want to welcome feedback. Not that it's always fun, right? It's not the thing that I always want to hear is, hey, you didn't do this very well, or that was terrible. I don't ever like to hear that, just like nobody else likes to hear it. But what I want to do is I want to get better and better at my craft so I don't have to hear those things. So more times than not, I'm hearing, well, you're one of the best at what you do. You're one of the greatest to ever do it. That to me was always what I was chasing after, and was always my motivation when I was playing, and now when I'm broadcasting and being a husband and being a father. I want to be the best. And again, it's not to get awards and all of that stuff, but I just want to be the best version of myself and to be able to get the best out of those people around me. And for me, that's what greatness is all about. And greatness to me is always about being coachable and always realizing that we chase perfection, but we seldom reach perfection. So we always need to stay open and humble and be able to listen to those around us that have the ability to help us become a better version of ourselves. So a tip of the hat to Tom Coughlin. Huge fan. I was a huge fan when I played for him, even though he benched me. I was a huge fan then, even a bigger fan now of watching the way that he lives his life, the way that he coached, the way that he was always willing to listen to those that challenged the way that he did it, to see if there was something that he could do differently to be the best version of himself.